Very good. Alrighty. Now when we are set up on the ground here, sitting in our chair, we'll make sure that our feet are shoulder width apart. Our knees are just on top of our heels. And our hands are on top of our knees. Now, we sit up nice and straight here. Remember, again, for those of us who might be tuning in for the first time, we go over two different positions in this class, and you're going to hear me say two different terms here that is referring to those positions where I'm focusing on the position of my spine, especially as it relates to my pelvis. So whenever I say where I want you to give me a nice hollow, what I'm referring to is that I want you to hollow your spine. Posteriorly tilt your pelvis, and you can think about tucking or squeezing those glutes. It'll produce the same thing, and tightening those abdominal muscles, which will pull the sternum down to our pelvis. Okay? It's going to round out your back. On an arch, we'll do the opposite. Our pelvis is going to anteriorly tilt, our chest will lift up, our shoulders will be rolled back and down. And then this class, we're trying to find the balance between those two and effectively to yield a nice neutral spine where it's an active posture, even at rest. And hopefully these exercises, most of them are isometric based. What this helps is ideally it's going to increase the residual tension that's on your body, especially at rest, which is going to help promote better posture, even when you're not thinking about it. Although I do hope in this class, everybody here develops a better awareness of their posture and how they move throughout their environment. So again, hands top of the knees, our feet are set out shoulder width apart, heels underneath the knees. What we're going to do is we're going to contract those glutes even while we're sitting down, and we're going to squeeze those stomach muscles. It's going to put us in a nice mild hollow position. What we're going to do is through the palms of our hands, we're going to push down onto the knees, and what's going to happen is you might feel your chest try to lift up a little bit. What's going to happen is we're going to be squeezing those stomach muscles so tight is that it's not going to be able to lift up. It'll just stay straight and forward. And you should really feel those stomach muscles having to work harder the harder you push down the palms of your hands. Now, while I'm still holding these contractions, I am allowing my diaphragm to relax and contract because I want to still make sure I still want to breathe. I don't want to hold my breath, okay? So, as we're holding these contractions, we're still breathing. We're not going to refrain from breathing. We're just going to keep everything nice and tight and focus on a good breath here. Pushing down to the palms of our hands, which will roll our shoulders back and down, and it will straighten out our back. But keeping a nice tight abdomen here will also keep us from over accentuating that back because we don't want to arch. We want to keep a nice neutral spine. And breathing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start to lean back in the chair. Now when we lean back in the chair, I want you to really emphasize the hollow so as not to arch your back because you're going to be more likely to arch the back. Now, if you don't have a problem doing the hollow, especially those of you who might have issues really trying to arch the back, then you don't really have to put as big of an emphasis and you can just start to lean back. Now, as I lean back, my hands are going to slide up my thighs, and I'm going to really dig the palms of my hands down into the top of my thighs, squeeze hard, hard, hard. And I'm going to pause when the weight just about leaves my feet. It's mostly in my hips, and I'm really having to use the abdomen as I breathe. Really having to use my abdomen to keep myself from leaning back. I want you to do, when you're in this position here, keep your feet on the ground. I know it's hard. And you might even find your breathing to be a little shallow. That's okay. I want you to fight for your breath, fight for that posture, and take notice in the back of your mind. Is your back arched? You would know you'll feel a lot of tension in that lower back if so. Or is the tension in the front? Maybe in the front of the thighs, top of the thighs there. That's good. That's where you want it. Let's go ahead and slide forward. palms of the hands are on top of the knees again. Keep breathing. Reset. Let's squeeze those glutes. Squeeze the abdomen. Pushing pressure through the palms of our hands to the top of our knees. We're going to start to slide back. Yeah, nice and easy. Not allowing our chest to lift up. We're trying to keep that guy in check. We're maintaining our environment that we've created here and hold. Don't go all the way back till you feel like your feet are coming up. Just before then, squeeze real hard with the palms of those hands onto the top of the thigh. Shift it up. Keep breathing. Don't hold our breath. We don't want to hold the breath at all. Keep breathing. Relax for a second here. Take a deep breath. We're going to be going back in again. Shake it out if you need to shake it out. Squeeze those glutes. Squeeze the abdomen. Pushing down the palms of the hands on top of our legs. Coming back. Pausing just before you feel like the weight's about to leave your feet. And now we're going to rotate. I'm going to shift my left hand forward up towards my knee. My right hand back towards my hip. And I'm just going to rotate my chair a little bit and twist. Then I'm going to shift the other way. Notice that I'm staying back in my chair. And I'm shifting again. I'm still keeping my core nice and tight. Try not to lean forward or any further backwards. And I'm breathing. I'm breathing. Keep going, keep going. Now we're going to hold, hold. Switch to the other side. Hold, hold. Back to the middle. Hold and slide those hands forward. Breathing, breathing, breathing. One more time. Shake it all out. Squeeze the glutes. Now make sure you're sitting at the very front of your chair. That way you have enough room to come back without the back of that chair getting in the way. Squeeze those glutes. Squeeze the abdomen. Push through the palms of your hands. Feel those shoulders roll back and down. Feel that chest trying to fight to come up, but it's not being, you're not letting it come up there. Keeping it in check there with those stomach muscles. And we're coming back, shifting those hands up our legs. Pausing just before the weight completely shifts back towards our hips. Holding, breathing. Really push down with your hands on top of the thighs there. Really engage those lat muscles. Those are those side back muscles that help with extension, shoulder extension. They also help you pull things down to you or towards you. All right, now we're going to rotate one direction. That left hand sliding up, right hand is going to slide back to you. That's going to allow us to rotate towards the left. Towards the right, sorry. Then I'm going to rotate towards the other side. My left hand comes back towards my hip. Right hand reaches towards the knee as I rotate towards the left. And switch again. Push down with the palms of your hands. Push down, push down, push down. I know it's hard. Rotate again. Push down, push down, push down. Rotate one more time. To this side, hold, push down hard. Last time for this one, and back to the middle, hold, come forward. Woo! All right, everybody, let's stand up. We're gonna kind of walk around a little bit. You really be feeling the core is engaged right now. You might even feel a little warm, that's good. It's an increase in blood flow. You can feel the heat that's being carried by that blood. It's going to help make these muscles nice and compliant. All right, now, real quick, we're going to do a little shoulder recall. Using nothing at all. Let me readjust this just a little bit. That's probably a lot better. Hands out in front and out to the side a little bit. So as if I'm making the shape of a W with my hands. My elbows are at my sides, and my elbows are pointing down. Just like so. And I'm trying to stack my forearms vertically. I can do this by pushing my elbows forward and pulling my hands back to me. What will happen is my arms will stay at my sides, and you should really feel those shoulder muscles kicking in. Now, if I'm not probably paying attention to what's going on, keeping my abdomen contracted or my glutes contracted, when you push your elbows forward and your hands bent, you might notice that your lower back starts to arch a little. You may notice this, you might feel this. Now, this is one way that we compensate sometimes for what we would describe as a lack of mobility, or to a certain point at which you've reached the scope of your mobility in terms of your thoracic rib cage and your shoulder. So these things affect one another. Your joints are articulated in a way where you have a stable joint, followed by a mobile joint, followed by a stable joint, followed by a mobile joint. So in our spine, our thoracic vertebrae constitute a joint, if you want to call it one big joint here, and it's supposed to be a mobile joint. Our lumbar spine, our thoracic part of our spine are supposed to be nice stable joints here. So it's stable, mobile, stable, which makes sense because what else comes after this stable joint right here is where our head articulates at the top of that C1, that vertebrae right here. We want to make sure the neck is nice and stable. Okay? So our shoulders are nice and mobile. Our elbows are supposed to be a nice stable joint. There's not supposed to be but so much movement that occurs here, so it can support the movement at the shoulder and movement at the wrist. So whenever we have a lack of mobility in between two stable joints, and we're still trying to force ourselves to complete some task or another, let's say pushing those elbows forward. So come ahead again with me. Relax the stomach, relax all these muscles here. Bring those elbows out. You should look like a W, like someone's telling you to freeze, put your hands up. You're gonna pull your hands back to you as you push the elbows forward and push, 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 push. All of a sudden you'll start to notice that your back is gonna start to arch a little bit. That is compensation. In a real life event or world where you're holding something or you're putting something up, and the lack of mobility in that area is going to negatively affect the joints that are especially load-bearing, stable joints. So what we want to do here is to protect ourselves, at the very least, is to make sure that we're keeping those joints, those stable joints nice and stable. But that's going to require some voluntary effort, especially when you're load-bearing. So just like we do when we normally do a hollow, we squeeze those glutes. That's going to kind of level out our pelvis and posteriorly tilt it just a little bit. We're going to squeeze those abdominal muscles, bring that sternum down a little. Now bring those elbows out. Make that W. Push them forward. Yes, you might realize, oh, but I can't go as far forward. Yes, that's true. But what you aren't doing is we aren't overarching our lower back, which means that you aren't going to let your lower back compensate for what you might lack in mobility. And it's in these positions here when we do these exercises, especially when we're doing our shoulder mobility exercises, we want to maintain this locked in posture here. So what's happening is, yes, I'm giving you a cue that might, in any other case, force you to arch your back, but you are contracting your glutes, you're contracting the abdomen, and you're going to fight that, and what we're going to do is we're going to achieve a nice balance and neutral posture here. And then we can put some reps behind trying to improve mobility by doing some of these other exercises. Even just this one right here, Hands are out to the sides. Elbows right here. Push those elbows forward. Pulling the hands back to you. Squeezing those glutes. Squeezing the abdomen. You're going to feel all that residual tension from those muscles that are antagonistic to what we're trying to do, which is essentially externally rotating our arm, that upper arm, as we retract the shoulder blades down. And relax. Shake it out a little bit. Let's put a little application here, okay? We all know where I'm going with this here. So grab your dowel. You can do this seated. We're just focusing on the upper body a little bit here. Granted, everything we do is always going to start from our core, our trunk. And then we might have a bigger emphasis on the upper body. Bring that dowel either in front, touching your collarbone, with your hands at the very far ends. Or you can bring it, if you have the mobility and flexibility to just behind at the top of the shoulders. It's not on my neck. The bars, this PVC is not on my neck. If you can get it here, that's okay. If it's on the back of your neck, that's not where we want it to be. You're going to end up just putting a lot of pressure on that vertebrae. We don't want to do that. It should be on a nice meaty shelf that you have at the top of those shoulders there, okay? If you have trouble getting it there, let me just say this, if it takes you more than 3 seconds and you're still not there, just go ahead, pop it out in front, put it right on top, right on the front part of your clavicle, and keep it in contact with your clavicle. Now, just like I was saying before, whenever we're going to do these exercises up top, we're going to push those elbows forward. But before we start doing that, go to relax the elbows, keep the PVC wherever it is. Squeeze those glutes first, yeah. Squeeze the abdomen, those abdominal muscles. Now, make sure you're breathing. Push those elbows forward. You might notice, yeah, it's not going to move as far. That's okay. Because now what we're doing is we're actually looking at what mobility we do have. And this is where we can start. This is where we can make improvements. Keeping those elbows forward. Best you can, okay? Now, let's relax for a second. Make sure your feet are at shoulder width apart. Let's reset. Feet are shoulder width apart. Squeeze those glutes, squeeze the abdomen. Make sure the PVC is in contact with the collarbone, or it's behind your head on top. Sorry, it's behind the back upper part of your shoulders. Pushing those elbows forward, maintaining that postural alignment as best we can. Slightly bending the knees. Okay, I have a slight bend in my knees. Slight bend in the knees, I should feel weight in the heel, ball of my foot, and the big toe. Now I'm just going to hinge forward a little bit, just a little right here. Just enough where I can still feel weight in my heels. I can still kind of shift back and forward pretty easily. I'm just going to hold this position and breathe. You should feel your legs having those muscles on top of your legs having to bear the weight. You should feel your glute muscles trying to contract, knowing that yes, they are trying, they're also being stretched right now. But you're still trying to keep them engaged in active posture. You're still squeezing those abdominal muscles. Okay? Still pushing the elbows forward, even in this position. Keep that PVC in contact with your clavicle, or if it's behind you, make sure it's staying down in position. We're going to come down a little bit more forward. Keep breathing. Don't hold your breath for me. Go forward. Now, I'm going to give you something very difficult to do here, okay? I want you to try it while holding all this. Glutes squeezed, the abdomen squeezed, holding that neutral posture with our spine, okay? Elbows are pushed forward. PVC is touching my clavicle. I'm breathing, holding this position. Make sure those legs are working. I'm sure they are. Now, again, if you're in your chair, you should be able to do this with me as well, or just at the front. You're going to tuck your chin back. Now, don't arch your spine. Remember, don't arch your spine. Don't arch your back. Just bringing the chin back just a little bit. And we're going to push this PVC forward and up in the direction at the angle at which our spine is facing. Now, if I have some shoulder tightness or some shoulder issues, shoulder mobility, restrictions, and all you have to do is push it out in front of you. Once you extend, you might notice there's going to be a greater emphasis for your back to want to arch, but we're not going to let it. We're not going to let it arch. We're going to keep that back nice and neutral. Okay? Yeah, keep fighting, bring it back. Come back up, relax. I know, it's a whole lot. Keep in mind, when you're in your daily life routine, doing your normal physical activity, or just doing your normal activities of daily life, at no point do you need to really put this much energy, per se, or this much thought into maintaining a good position. Although I do, it would make me very happy to hear that you are being cognizant when you are deciding to bend down to pick up groceries. That you're going to make sure that you have your heels in the ground, that you have weight in your heels, that your back isn't rounded out and it's not overly arched, but instead it's nice and neutral because you're actually engaging these muscles just enough, even just to do something as simple as picking up some groceries that you know aren't that heavy, because it's not the heavy things most of the time that are going to mess with you. It's when all of a sudden you bend down and you don't even really pick up anything that has any weight to it at all. And then that's when you feel like, oh, you pulled something. It's a nice controlled movement here, keeping our body in a good position. All right, with the PVC still, okay? Let's put it back towards our collarbone or behind, okay? Now, squeezing those glutes, squeezing the abdomen, pushing the elbows forward just a little, not a lot, just a little. We're just going to push straight up. Now, if you do have the PVC behind the neck, but you feel like by the time you get up here, you just can't keep going forward, then reset with the PVC in front of you, and then get your head back a little bit, push straight up. Now, if it starts to come out in front a little bit, that's okay. If you can't get it up here, then push it straight out. As you push, think about keeping those stomach muscles tight, those glutes engaged, whether you're coming out front at an angle, straight out, or whether you're coming straight up overhead. And I just want you to hold that position. Wherever you are, try to fully extend those arms. I just want you to hold. And as you're holding, whether it's overhead or out in front, I want you to squeeze those glutes. Make sure your abdomen is engaged. I want you to think about it as you reach, you're going to feel the urge to arch your spine. And you're going to feel how much effort you need to put in to emphasizing a little bit of a hollow to add some balance to that posture. Keep reaching. Reach real high, but reach high as far as you can with your limbs. Don't let it necessarily mean that you have to arch your back up to get higher. Still standing up nice and tall, reaching, whether it's above your head, or if it's a little bit out in front, or if it's straight out in front, just keep reaching, but I want you to keep your feet squeezed, keep breathing, keep your stomach tight, and relax. Shake it out. Now I know that this PVC might not have any real weight to it. Granted, it's definitely no more than 2 pounds. And if you can imagine holding something that was maybe even 5 or 10 pounds out in front of you, think about how hard it might be to maintain your posture when this barely even weighs 2 pounds. And you're already experiencing, whether you're pushing your arms out, up, or overhead, you're already feeling that your spine wants to overexert its position. It'll be that much more difficult when you're holding a weighted object. So this is the reason why it's so important that we, at the very least, we at least train the awareness by having us do it over and over and holding it for long periods of time. So it becomes something that's familiar, relatively comfortable. I'll use that word pretty loosely here. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm 100% comfortable doing all this. But that, more importantly, is you feel as comfortable as you can, and you know what it's like when you're contracting the correct muscles. Now, let's reset. We're gonna put that back in play here. I'm gonna add another movement. Okay, so glutes are squeezed, abdomen squeezed. The bar is touching the front of our clavicle or behind our top back portion of our shoulders. Pushing those elbows forward just a little bit. Bend the knees slightly. We're gonna hinge forward again. Okay, just to maybe even, I don't know, 45 degrees, no more than that. No more than 45 degrees, hinging at the waist. Now, we're gonna extend out, okay? So either extend out, kind of above your head, or straight out if you want to instead, depending on your mobility. But as you extend out, make sure the glutes are squeezed, the abdomen is not giving up its position or its tension and its influence on our posture. As we're reaching out, I want you to slowly drop, or not drop, but I want you to slowly lower your arms and the PVC down. And now engage the lats as you bring it in to squeeze into the thigh. Okay? Now as you squeeze into the thigh, you'll notice that your chest wants to lift up more. The harder you squeeze, the more your back wants to arch. But again, it's okay. The harder you squeeze with your lats and those arms into the thigh, the harder you're going to have to contract those stomach muscles. And I want you to squeeze that PVC in hard. Keep breathing. Hold it. We're not coming out of the position just yet. Try to stay in there with me as best you can. Okay? Now very slowly, we're going to start to stand up. And as we stand up, lengthening the knee, the legs, squeeze that PVC to the front of the thigh more and more, but squeeze those glutes, squeeze the abdomen. We should be sitting up nice. We should be standing up or sitting up nice and tall. And relax. Not too bad, right? I know we're feeling it here. So what's difficult, I understand it. I'm going to give you a cue once we've already gone through these postures and I put you in a position, and now I give you, an objective outside of the one we're already spending a lot of effort on. I tell you to move here. Whether I tell you to push it out, push it up, or if I tell you at that point to then bring it into our thighs, make sure that you're still paying attention, whether or not you're still contracting the glutes, or that you're still trying to. And whether or not you're still actually trying to actively engage the abdomen and these oblique muscles as well, all 360 degrees of that torso, the musculature in our torso here, okay? That's typically what will happen as we get distracted. We get distracted by the task at hand. I need to grab this and pull it here. And you forget about all the things that have to happen in between A and B. That's going to end up getting us hurt here. So let's do this again. As we go through, don't worry so much about the command per se. Try to do as best you can. Remember, stay within your range of motion. Focus more so on being able to do the command without letting go of these contractions and without your posture having to compensate, okay? If you get to a point and you feel like, I normally can get this thing out all the way, but for some reason, I just can't because I'm really keeping that posture locked in, then stay within that range of motion here, okay? Those would be good reps. All right, we'll reset. Okay, I'm gonna face forward this time. Feet are shoulder width apart. Squeezing the glutes, abdomen's engaged. Make sure the PVC's touching the clavicle, it's at the top part of our shoulders. Pushing those elbows forward, bending the knees slightly, hinging forward about 45 degrees, no further than that. And you don't have to go to 45, you can go a little, you don't have to go as far. Just enough to kind of put yourself in a position where you really have to use this athletic stance, this posture here. Now make sure you're still squeezing those glutes and the abdomen even as you bent over, and you're still pushing the elbows forward. Now, let's bring the bar either straight out in front or kind of up in the direction, an angle of which our spine is oriented. Make sure as we're going through the movement, you're paying attention. Don't let go of the stomach. Don't let go of the glutes. Keep it all engaged. It's all active. Now, don't shrug, okay? You're not shrugging. Slowly bringing and lowering the PVC down. Squeezing those glutes. Squeezing those glutes. Squeezing the abdomen. Bringing it down all the way up to our thigh. Once it gets onto the thigh, push. Squeeze that PVC to the top of our thigh right here. Your arms are straight. Keep those arms straight. You'll feel those shoulders engaged to a greater degree. That chest is going to want to lift up, but we're not going to let it. We're not going to let it. Keep those glutes squeezed. And really pay attention as we go through this next movement, okay? Really pay attention. You're squeezing PVC into the thigh, keeping the abdomen tight. Now, slowly, we're going to bring the bar back up, out front, to a height that is within your range of motion. We're going to bring it back down, keeping everything nice and tight. Squeeze it back into the thighs. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Slowly straighten out the legs. Squeeze the PVC into your thighs even more. Even more. Squeezing the glutes, squeezing the abdomen. And relax. Oh no. No joke. Shake it out a little bit. Take a walk around your chair if you need to. I know, probably those of you who have issues sometimes trying to engage your core, if your lower back is really killing you right now, make sure that you're really engaging those glutes. And if you're feeling like you're not quite sure if they are engaging, here's a little somatic response that we can do. So you can think about pushing through the heels or just kind of arching those feet purposely, creating an arch in your feet. Bring your hands, hold them on the top, back side of your glutes, and squeeze your glutes and squeeze your glutes voluntarily, not just with your hands, but contract them yourself. In the area in which you feel your hands, that's the area that you should feel the contraction taking place. So if you feel the contraction taking place there, you are squeezing your glutes there. Now they are thick muscles, they're very dense, and they're very powerful hip extensors. These are muscles that very easily go unused, ignored. They even have it if you sit on your butt all day, and if you don't really activate those muscles when you go through mechanics of hip extension, like when you stand or when you sit, you try to lean back up after bending over, you have what's called like glute amnesia, where it's just, there's not a lot of activation happening. So that's one thing that this class, we really do a whole lot of, we do a lot of glute activation. Now again, because it is a dense muscle, there's a lot of muscle fiber in there, and that's the reason why we hold these contractions for so long as well, because these muscles are very fatigue tolerant if you train them so. So even though you might be getting tired a little bit, as long as you're consistently working on this every week, it does get better. It does get better. All right. Last time with the PVC here, we're gonna do something a little bit different, okay? This time, we're gonna keep our knees just soft. They're not necessarily bent, but they're not locked out. We're not locking out our legs. I'm gonna really make an arch with my foot so I can really feel the ball of my foot, the heel of your feet, and the big toe, all in contact with the floor. That's good. PVC's in contact with our collarbone. I'm squeezing my glutes, activating those abdominal muscles. And now I'm gonna squeeze my elbows in, okay? I'm gonna push and extend the PVC out in front. Okay? Now as I do this, I shouldn't be shrugging, and my elbow should be squeezed in, almost as if I'm trying to break the bar. Yeah, y'all know that exercise, trying to break the bar here, okay? Go ahead and relax. Shake your arms out for a second. I'm going to dissect this movement real quick for us. Hold the bar out in front of you, the PVC. Whenever I'm referring to breaking the bar here, what I'm trying to do is, you're not actually going to break the bar. What's going to happen is I'm trying to rotate my thumbs upwards. So, if this PVC was, made of something very flimsy, it would bend and bow like that as my arms and hands try to rotate upwards. Like Julius Caesar giving his yay or nay thumb. I'm trying to give a yay with the thumb here. But what happens is, because this isn't some flimsy material, your arms, your hands don't actually turn upwards. But if you actually really try to break that bar, try to bend the bar that way, you'll notice if you go to relax, to try to bend, relax, try to bend, you'll notice that your elbows, your arms, your forearms and your upper arms, they actually rotate a little bit. And your elbows go from kind of pointing outwards a little bit to pointing downwards. You should also notice this movement occurring in your shoulders. Your shoulders should depress and become retracted a little bit. This is very important when we're trying to preserve the space inside of our shoulder joint. So whenever we push or press, we want to preserve that space that gets smaller when we go through this range of motion. So now, squeeze your glutes, squeeze the abdomen, bring that bar out in front, try to break the bar, hold, 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 don't arch your back, keep those stomach muscles engaged, don't arch, keep break the bar, relax, bend the bar again, bend that bar. You should really notice those elbows are squeezing down, or pointing downwards. Relax, one more time. Squeezing, trying to bend that bar. Try to bend that bar, bend, and relax. Good job. Shake it out. I know, it's a never-ending story. All right. So the next thing we're going to do here, this is going to get very difficult, okay? We're going to do what we were just doing before. All right? I'm going to just push my arms out. I'm going to contract my glutes. I'm going to contract the abdomen. I'm going to start with the PVC. This time, let's put the PVC just in front of my chest. Doesn't have to touch my chest, it can just be out right here. But you're going to notice that your elbows are down at your sides. Okay? I'm going to try to break the bar from this position here, okay? As I push an object away from me, that's when I really want to think about trying to keep those elbows close in as I push through, okay? So, squeeze the glutes, squeeze the abdomen. So we're locked up with our trunk. Now squeeze those elbows into your sides. You'll notice that that will happen if you just try to bend the bar that way and push forward, maintaining the postural alignment, keeping the glutes and abdomen squeezed and contracted. Relax your arms. Don't try to bend the bar, bring it back, but keep your core still engaged. Reset. Try to bend the bar, push out. Now as you bend the bar, you might notice your shoulders will retract and depress. But don't let your chest lift up and don't let your back arch. Reaching, and relax. Good job. All right, so we're gonna go and do for one rep. We're gonna start it all off again, okay? Now, just like we were doing a little bit earlier, keep your shoulder width apart, squeezing the glutes, squeezing the abdomen, bring that PVC to your collarbone. Push those elbows forward just a little bit. Bend your knees. Yeah, we're doing this one. Bend your knees just a little bit. Okay? Hinge forward a little bit at the hip, no further than 45 degrees. Now, as you're hinging, remember, keep your glutes squeezed. Keep the abdominal muscles squeezed. Don't arch the back. You just want it to be nice and straight. Pause. And now break the bar. Try to bend that bar the way we were just doing before. whether you push it down or straight out in front of you or up overhead. Nice and easy. And try to maintain that core position as you reach out. Reach, 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 reach. You're doing good, you're doing good, doing good. Slowly bringing it down. Still trying to break the bar. I want you to try to break that bar. Try to break the bar, break the bar, break the bar. Even as you're bringing it down here, keeping my core nice and tight. Squeeze it into the thighs. Squeeze into the thigh, squeeze into the thigh. All of a sudden you're realizing as you squeeze into the thigh, it almost kind of complements the whole breaking the bar concept. Squeezing those shoulders back and down is what it's going to do for you. Slowly we're going to start to stand up, still squeezing our glutes, still squeezing the abdomen. Squeeze, hold, really dig that bar into the front of the thigh. Dig, 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 and relax. Whew. Not bad, everybody, not bad. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Good job. Well done. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed today. If you're a little tense right now, walk it off for a second. But I look forward to seeing you all and hearing from you all next time, okay? Thank you again for checking in. And again, please check out our library of videos, and please we would love some feedback. Or if you're having trouble accessing it, definitely let us know about those issues. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.